How are you, Nick?
Doing well. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
Yeah. So, finally, after I don't know, 18 months maybe of
Hmm.
talking, yeah, on Clubhouse. Finally meeting you. That's wonderful. So, when did you get on Clubhouse? Do you remember?
No, I don't even remember. My former brother-in-law reached out and said there's this app that I think you would really love, and it's a community of people who are just exchanging ideas, and I'm gonna recommend you for it. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then stumbling around different production groups and came across your smartphone filmmaking room and just fell in love with it. I mean, absolutely, just the vibe of the room and everyone in it was just it was just a wonderful experience from the jump. So I'm like, yep, I think I found my people, and so I've just been joining it ever since.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're always, so consistent and coming visit us, and we really appreciate. And you always have things to teach us and to contribute to the subject. And yeah, it's always great to have you. And now, it's great to see you. You
Likewise.
look so good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's the lighting. It really blows out any kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, you look wonderful.
Thank you.
So reading your bio, very short bio, and I learned something from what you have done. And can you just, tell people, tell
Sure.
audience, tell me a little about yourself,
Hmm.
in terms of your work and everything. Not
Sure.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's my journey's a bit like the Odyssey. Unfortunately, I've played the role of Odysseus in my own little story here. But so I started off very early, grabbing my dad's Fujifilm camera and his VHS camcorder, and was scripting commercials very early on. And I just always felt drawn to the creative process. And growing up in Paulding County, Georgia, very rural part of Northwest Georgia at the time, there were no outlets for that. So I was sort of stuck on an island. Um, I, as a result, I felt like I needed to, build myself in a way that could survive some of the downfalls that people would throw out there for the filmmaking process. So I joined the Marines, right? I'm like, okay, if I can survive the Marines, I can survive just about anything. And when I got out, I had gone to art school. I had, uh, you know, loved learning about not just the video and filmmaking component, but also just the rest of the artistic process and the great masters. And then found my way into CBS Radio, which was in the process of trying to create their own online video platform, sort of an in-house digital agency. And they had never done anything like it before. They didn't even know where to begin. So they said, "Okay, kid, you have some good ideas. We're going to drop you right in and see how it works." And that's how I got started. And we were creating everything. Everything was run and gun. Everything was um, a learning process, a learning curve, both from their sales side, how to pitch it to potential clients, for us, and how to create good content in a very, very short period of time. And then not just that, but the relationship building process, working with celebrities, working with people with extraordinarily tight deadlines outside of your own little sphere. And using that platform, I ended up going to Turner Sports. With Turner Sports, they had just acquired the rights to uh, the college properties, NCAA.com, March Madness, all the college sports that go with it. And it was again another ground zero process, building it up from nothing. That I was surrounded by people who I have no problem saying were infinitely smarter than I am and infinitely more talented. And we had a great squad that built something that was really great. And Turner still has those properties today. Unfortunately, Turner did what Turner does from time to time, which is they hire, uh, you know, 100 people and lay off 300. So got caught up in that and went into distribution. Distribution for helping to link content creators and the content users like newspaper websites, finding a way to get the content from point A to point B, and how do we do that in a way that can generate everyone a little bit of revenue. And so that was a completely different side of the business that I was used to. And it was fun and it was great. And with all startups, there were some interesting moments. And I looked around and saw what was happening and said, okay, I think I need to go get into corporate world. The loss of the job at Turner, really, it was just soul crushing. It was the dream. It was my dream job. I built my first editing rig on my own, using VCRs, camcorders, and a TV when I was like 15. This is something that was always a dream of mine, and losing that, it just ripped everything out from underneath me. And so, there was one bad moment that allowed a bad decision to say, okay, well, let's get out of the creative process entirely and either stick with digital or digital distribution or go into corporate America. And so after sitting with it for a while, and I know I'm going long here, but I want to fit this one little bit in. My son came up to me and said, "Daddy, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And kids will always ask you the craziest questions, and you never realize until it's like the punch in the gut, like, wow, this kid has just asked me something that's really deep. And I said, well, son, I'm like 40.
You should ask him about that.
Right. And so I realized I can't tell him that I'm, in this place where I've walked away from this thing that I love and I'm just never going back to it. And so he was like, well, why don't you go back to doing this stuff again? And thanks to your room and Clubhouse and really kind of sitting with myself for a bit, started getting back into the creative world. And even in corporate America, the lessons learned in corporate America, as boring and mundane as it may seem to a lot of people, there are so many life lessons in corporate America that transition exceedingly well to the creation space. And I'm grateful to my son for asking the pointed question. I'm grateful to you for having the room and the community that you've sort of built and fostered that allow us to sort of re-engage and rediscover. So that's a condensed version of my journey. But yeah, it's one of love, loss, and rediscovery.
Wow. That's very inspiring. And I think one go through with different phase of our lives, and sometimes you never know how or what sort of turn you to one direction. And so it's very interesting. And so when you go to art school, what exactly did you learn? Are you like a painting, or what did you do? Is it for digital study or camera or study?
Back then it was called digital media production. The world had gotten away from 8mm film and was getting more toward the mini DV tapes and the tape world and rapid, like ENG style shooting and really fast paced capture editing. And so it was, you got what you wanted out of the program. I'll put it that way. It was one where they had some individuals who is the Art Institute of Atlanta. I don't mind dropping the name, but we had some people who were exceedingly gifted at what they did. People who had had a significant amount of live television experience, live production experience. And we had some people who were fresh out of school who were thrown into teaching jobs for the first time. And it was sort of like just kind of find your way around. But we learned some basics of camera. We learned the basics of editing. We learned a great deal about sort of the crafting process, the conceptualization of projects. But the one thing I think I really took away from it was the need for team building and relationship building. You could learn so much about the arts, and you can learn so much about painting styles and the different aspects of the visual medium, but you have to learn how to work as a team. You have to learn how to work across barriers. So people who are even in different majors than you. So someone who has a printing major, a painting or audio, or if someone is in, the culinary department, these are people you want to be friends with, even though they have no idea what you do and you have very little idea what they do. To me, that was the most valuable thing taken away from art school, was the fact that, hey, I need to make a show. I think culinary's in class right now, and they're in sort of free creation space. Go see what they're doing. Okay, great. We have a cooking show now. It was the same with the painting majors as well. One instructor I had, and you're in New York, so I think you can you'll appreciate this. She worked with Andy Warhol at the factory, and was just brought these amazing stories about working with Warhol, his creative process, and that the need to break free from the traditional style of creation, right? Not holding yourself to one specific idea and never branching out. You must branch out. You must free yourself creatively. And to me, that was and it was an art history 3 class, believe it or not. And to me, it was by far the most valuable class, I would say, that I took, because, we would watch Kurosawa one day, and the next day we were talking about, Rembrandt, or we were discussing, the avant-garde, art scene of the village in New York, right? So it was, it was always something new and amazing, and that class is something I'll treasure always. So,
Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful. So Atlanta, I understand where you are, is very big in filmmaking now.
Now, yes.
Yeah, but
yeah.
then it's not, right? When you were
No,
younger.
no. You had 2 outlets. You could either go into Turner Broadcasting, which was the non-CNN side of the business, or you could go to CNN and do news. That was the 2 avenues. You had Tyler Perry south of the city, who was really starting to build his media empire at the time. It was still in the fledgling stages. He was still doing a lot of stage stuff at the time. But for me, I felt drawn more toward the sports avenue. It was something I understood. It was something that I knew how to shoot. It was something that, from growing up around it, my dad had played various levels of soccer, from amateur to semi-pro to low-level pro. And so it was something I felt comfortable with. And getting onto CBS Radio was something completely different. It was out of left field, and we had to shoot a commercial to prove ourselves, right? That was sort of our entry level. Like, okay, you have to shoot this commercial. I don't know if it was necessarily the most ethical thing in the world, but it was presented to me by some individuals who, were connected with the school in an unofficial capacity. And they said, look, if you shoot this commercial and you do a good job, we may have something for you. And so we went and we sat down and with the principal owner of this restaurant, and they said, okay, this is what we're looking for. And, it was very nebulous. We had next to nothing to work with. And they said, okay, so we can't shut down the restaurant. I can't lose the money. We have no money for extras, so you're going to have to shoot during a working day. And we're like, oh, okay, we have tungsten lights. They're very hot. This is kind of going to be a liability nightmare. And we sat down and we did it all by, we crunched the numbers. I did all the blocking. I found a quiet part of the restaurant where we would not necessarily be bothered. And we did the shoot. And what won us the gig out of everything we did, out of the music, the editing, all that didn't do it. What got us the job was both the owner of the restaurant and the principals of the stakeholders who we were working with noticed that after every take, I would swap out the napkins underneath the glasses that held the drinks because they were developing the condensation. And every take, I was swapping out the napkins. And they said, "Oh, that attention to detail is exactly what we're looking for. You're hired." And it's like, whoa, wait, what?
Wait,
Like,
wait. I
everything?
didn't get it. You were swapping the bottom of glass?
The napkins. So when they were sitting at this table, we had these 4 guests of a restaurant sitting at a table. You have their food, they're being served drinks, and the drinks are being set on napkins. And so as the drink sits there and they're supposed to be talking and enjoying themselves, there's water, the condensation runs down the glass and soaks into the napkin. So from a visual standpoint, the napkin is now less appealing. And so seeing that in the shot just drove me nuts. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to let some soaked napkin appear in my shot. And I don't care if I look like a control freak. They're going to have to get over it.
I see.
And so they do the shot. We call cut. I go in. I'm swapping out the napkins. After every take, the napkins are being swapped out. And they were like, "That's exactly what we're looking for. That kind of psychosis is exactly what we're looking for." And we got in there, and they said, "Look, you're going to be working with celebrities. You're going to be working with large corporations. You're going to be working crazy hours, and you're going to have to deal with it." And thank God I was in the Marines and learning how to do things on very little sleep. Because we would have to go in at 5 a.m. for the morning show shoot. They would have a guest, like, if it was Busta Rhymes or if it was, Snoop or someone else coming in. And then we would have to do a restaurant shoot midday. So we would have a local restaurant that we would work with. A chef would come in and cook something. And then in the evening, we would have to go to a nightclub, to shoot for, I believe it was Moet and Chandon, the champagne, and we would go to clubs like the Velvet Room, which was a famous club here in town, and we'd have to work BET weekend, and so it was just non-stop, and working a 20-hour day was not uncommon.
Were you at that time? Were you like 20 something? 22?
Yeah, I was 20. No, I was like 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like 27.
Can you see yourself doing that and having a family? Is it possible?
I had a family at the time. And,
yeah.
And no, it's not possible. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't say it's not possible. I would say that my ex-wife, who I get along with fantastically, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. She was a nurse, and we had my son was very young at the time, and we had both sort of come to the agreement that this job was not going to be long-term, and that we would just survive it and survive in advance was sort of the idea that we had. But the toll that it takes mentally and physically, it's just hard to even put into words. Mentally, you're burned out because you're creating, those things I told you about, those are 3 paying clients, right? One, you have the job that pays you that you have to show up for at 5 a.m. You have the chef who shows up at noon. That's part of the restaurant group that's paying an additional fee. And then you have to do your nightclub shoot. That's a corporation that's buying, it's essentially ad revenue. So the mental strain of, okay, we have to shoot this, edit this, and keep this content wheel going nonstop. It eventually took a dramatic toll. Never home, and I thought it would get easier when I went to Turner, and that was until March Madness hit, which is obviously the large collegiate basketball tournament for those who may not know, and for anyone who says, well, who doesn't know about March Madness? I have cousins in Italy who don't know what March Madness is. So, but March Madness would hit. I had I don't know if you remember the show on Seinfeld where George Costanza builds out like the little mini apartment under his desk. He had like a little cot under his desk. That was me. I had a coffee machine at my own desk. I had food in the desk drawers. I had a pillow underneath my desk. I mean,
the shaver.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would go, they had, I kept a change of clothes and I would go to the gym. We had a gym on site and would shower. But there were times I didn't see my son for a month. And then, you think, okay, well, spring's coming around. That's going to be easier. Okay, well, then College World Series hits. And then College World Series hits and they're in Omaha and you get a storm delay. And now you're not done, putting that content out until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, So there's a lot of 2-hour nights, 2 hours of sleep. And then it's something where in that, and that's one thing I talk about even with our room is that there's an idea that I want to break into this industry. I want to get into this industry and I want to, get paid every meal on my plate. I want to come from production. There's a price to that. There's a price to doing business. And that's one of the great pieces of advice my dad always gave me. He says, son, there's a cost to doing business, whatever it may be. It's not always money. But the cost of doing business here was essentially my first marriage. It was time, we're being an engaged and I say I did the best I could, being a dad, but your kid's is excited and bouncing and wanting to play. And you're like, son, I don't know what, 5 of everything because you're on 2 hours of sleep. That's not necessarily the best parenting. But in the phase that I'm in now, looking back, taking the lumps, I would say that the documentary space, the travel space, understanding limits, those are the things that I feel like we're now, if I create something, I create it and put it out on my own timeline, not based around, metrics and based around the deadline world, which is great. And I think deadlines are needed. But when somebody comes to you and says, look, you are working for 3 clients in a day, there are a lot of agencies that would say, nope, sorry, that's not sustainable for us. The drawbacks to that outside of the personal stuff was you never worked with multiple lenses. You always had a zoom on. You had one zoom lens. And so you weren't experiencing working with primes. You weren't experiencing working with, set building. It was go, 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 go. Got very good at quick and nasty editing. Got very good at very quick shot setup, but there wasn't a lot of growth opportunity there. With Turner, there was more growth opportunity, but at the same time, because it fell under an umbrella of people who only dealt with sports, the creative control was not necessarily there. You would say, hey, I have this idea for this or this or this. And they would say, it's not our brand. Thanks. We can't do that. So it's understand that if you're trying to break into this world, there are trade-offs, whether it's creative control, whether it's the time you get to spend at home. You can be married. You can have kids and do production. It can be done, but you have to be very organized and deliberate in your planning, and you have to really be able to draw firm lines and say, okay, this is where I'm going to work this long, and at this point I'm shutting it off, and then I have to move to somewhere else and focus move somewhere else, meaning my attention, my energy, it has to be moved somewhere else. And so that's something I would tell anybody who's getting into this world is that, don't be in a rush. Just like we tell kids, don't be in a rush to grow up. Don't be in a rush to get that corporate video gig, that corporate filmmaking gig, because if you become very good at what you do and you become an excellent shooter, an excellent editor, a fantastic judge of content creation. And I know there are a lot of people who hate the term content, but if you can sit there and look at a calendar and say, okay, I can craft out a content strategy for 365 days. This allows me to then make plans around how I can break up my time, break up my energy. You become infinitely more valuable if you can speak to a producer with the experience that I have now from corporate America and understand the word margin and what that means to a producer, what that means to a studio or a business. You make yourself more valuable. The more
What that
value.
mean?
So what the
What does
margin is,
margin mean?
the margin means that if you have a client who comes in and says, okay, I'm going to pay $1 million for an ad campaign. And this is what I want. There's the cost to employ a production crew, to get equipment, to bring resources to bear, to make the shoot, to deliver the end product costs a certain amount of money. And so there's the amount of money the client has paid you. There's the amount of money it's going to cost to execute. And what we're trying to do is not have it here. We definitely don't want it here where the cost to produce is more than was given. And even this is probably not acceptable to most businesses. You want to make as much space as humanly possible between the amount that you are given and the amount that it costs to execute. Mm-hmm. But here's the razor's edge. This is the coffin zone. This is what I call the coffin zone, which is if we go too close to the margin, we're not a viable business and we risk being shut down. If we go too cheap, then we are in B movie territory. And in B movie territory, the production value is very low. We're rushing probably to get everything done. And so we need to find a nice middle ground between production value and the value that we're bringing to our employer. And how do we do that? There's three things. Bob Iger goes by this. He's the legendary former CEO of Disney, as well as Warren Buffett. It's energy, intelligence, and integrity. With those three things, that's how you execute. With energy and intelligence, you can find your way past most speed bumps and hurdles to make sure that you don't have, that this doesn't start going like this. And with the integrity means that if you start getting into this range where questions start being asked, hey, why are we charging this much? Why are we executing this way? Integrity is providing honest answers for the people who you are talking to. Your crew, hey, look, I can't pay you top tier because of this. In telling the producers, hey, look, I have to spend a little bit more than you want because it's going to give you this. It's challenging conversations. It's difficult conversations. Integrity will give you more opportunity to speak to these people in a way that they can respect and understand. So when they talk to you, instead of being like, oh, this guy's a clown, he lies about this, just give them the answer, it'll be fine. If they sit around and say, hey, look, this guy is very honest with us, and he's pretty much a straight shooter. If he says it takes this, it takes this. Give it to him. Energy, intelligence, and integrity. Those are the three things. And always, 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 when you partner with people, look for those three things as well. Because if you find someone with energy and intelligence and they don't have integrity, they're going to sink you. They're going to sink your shoot. They're going to sink your business. Make sure you always, always stick with people who have good integrity. I can teach anything else. I can't teach integrity. So it's very important. And integrity also means sometimes saying no or saying, I don't know. And that was something else that helped me. When I was approached for the restaurant shoot that we spoke about a moment ago, they said, Nick, we need a really good editor. I said, well, I'm not a really good editor. But I know someone who is, and I can find a few other things that you may need. They said, oh, a producer. We need you too. Let's go. Had I said I'm a really good editor and gotten in there and I wasn't a great editor, I'm not getting the gig. I'm not getting an extra shot. So always, there's a lot of fear in being honest, but sometimes I think it works out, and oftentimes it works out for the best if you're straightforward with people.
Right. Yeah, that's very good advisor. Now, when you were joining, like shooting the sports event or for these big television station, are you a how do I say? What do you shoot? Do you go out with several people and you're shooting like a journalistically way shooting, or how do they use your footage, as a news or as a story or as a some kind of series?
We had all of the above. So if I were like, let's say I was covering the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and Chick-fil-A was a paid sponsor, obviously, and they said, we need you to shoot this base amount for us, that we're going to get this footage, and then the rest of the footage you get can go to your website to do what, ncaa.com. And so I shoot what they want. I'm not on camera. I'm a one-man band.
Oh,
I have a camera, a monopod, I have a shotgun mic, and that's it. And when I can't use a monopod, I'm going handheld. I take that base footage, give it to them. The rest of it I take and I package, and then I send it to CNN. At the time, it was called Airport Network, so it would go to CNN Airport Network, or to CNN Headline News, where they would go into their sports packaging, and then it would also be packaged into a highlight for NCAA.com. And then there would be other times where I would go for the FCS, the football. FCS, the football championship series. So it was a previously Division II. So North Dakota State, Sam Houston State, schools like this. I'm working with a crew, and at that point, I'm more of the producer mode. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need to execute, and this is where the end product will go. It's more of a fully fleshed out vision. It's not going to be broken apart. It's going to be packaged and delivered to each individual source that needs it. So it's a lot of different hats, and often in the same event. It's all, sometimes you're shooting, sometimes even when you're working with the crew, you still end up shooting. And sometimes you're in front of the camera, sometimes you're behind the camera. For CBS, the Braves had a rookie, Jason Hayward, who's now playing with the Cubs. And they said, look, we have someone who from our hip hop and R&B station who's going to talk to him, but we don't have anybody for our rock station who's going to talk to him. So Nick, you're going to talk to him. I had never interviewed a baseball player in my life, and I'm like, okay, great. I guess. And so before you know it, I'm sitting in the dugout next to this, major, soon to be Major League Baseball player, talking about his future goals. So it's everything. It was all of it.
Yeah.
And but it required a sense of adventure. You don't walk in as a one-man band or one-person band, and the challenges that naturally come with that, the variables that get thrown at you that you have to account for, without a spirit of adventure. You have to have the ability to remain calm. Thank you to the Marines for that.
Yeah.
If you can handle a live grenade, you can handle microphone XLR cord challenges.
Yeah.
But it's when everyone's looking at you and trying to fumble, trying to find the XLR cable that works, or at the time the cables that will make the shoot work or not, to go to your separate storage device. You have to remain calm under pressure. So a sense of adventure, the ability to be calm. It's these are things that will save you, not just in the production world, but in business in general. I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while before I got injured, and to me, that's something that saved my rear end so many times from just thinking under pressure. Okay, you can't panic and freak out because you get choked out, right? In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And in shooting, you can't panic and freak out because you lose your shot, right? Your hands are shaking, you're going handheld, and you're trying to,
Right.
And so it's basic things.
Right.
The ability to center yourself. I know I sound like a self-help guru right now.
No.
No.
This is very good to hear that. And also, I'm sure the preparation of getting this stuff, because you don't want to get there and forget this. And a long time ago, I don't know, you guys probably carry really heavy and bulky batteries.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then you have to carry multiple of them, right? What if it's like run out?
Yeah, no, it is. There was a saying that we had, a friend of mine taught it to me before I went in the Marines, but I also heard it in the Marines, that prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And if you plan, okay, for your battery example, I think is perfect. I'm going to be on set for 4 hours, 5 hours. Each battery shooting is going to be about 2 to 3 hours. Okay, I'm going to take 7 batteries. There's going to be no excuse on earth that I'm going to run out of juice. And then you forget that the shotgun needs AAA batteries. So you're like, oh crap, I forgot the AAA batteries, right? So you prepared everything outside of what is really the esoteric, the stuff that only the nerds are going to dig into. So make sure you have enough storage. Make sure your batteries across the board. Check everything, all of your equipment. Learn all of your equipment. These are things that save you. And the more you know about your own equipment, the more you can troubleshoot. Okay, okay, I can substitute this for this and engineer this, and then now you're solution finding instead of problem finding, right?
You probably went through a lot of different format of chips, right?
Yes, yeah. We went from Beta SP to Mini DV,
big, yeah,
to Firestore, which is it was a large unit. It was a unit about that thick and about let me see if I can get there we go, about that tall, and it had a cord that was about 3 feet long that went to the back of this Panasonic, and it would plug into the back of the Panasonic, and then you wore the Firestore on your hip. Now, if you were at a sporting event, you're surrounded by people who are running all over the place. Somebody's yanking the cord. Somebody, then, oops, we lost our shot. Crap. Okay, now I have to race to the other side to get it. You're in a club, especially for BET weekend. One time, this is so crazy. We were at the Velvet Room. I'm being jostled all around. I'm in the VIP section. We can barely move. Moet and Chandon has covered the bill, so I can't leave. I'm stuck there. I have to get something. And I can't even, my cord keeps getting unplugged. Big Boy from Outkast looks at me and says, hey, come over here. So I go into Big Boy's booth, and he says, if you shoot video of me and my people hanging out here, you can hang with us. I'm like, done. They already had bottles of champagne. I'm like, it's the beam of light comes in like, it's so, and it gets crazier because Michael Jordan comes in, and Michael Jordan goes over to his VIP booth. Somebody hits me from behind, and I'm shooting. I turn around, and it's former NBA star Tracy McGrady and Gabrielle Union's with him. And then Nelly, I guess he's more of a celebrity now than he's a rapper. Nell is trying to work the crowd, and the crowd is so packed, his security has to turn him around and get him out. And because I was able to get a gift from above, thanks to the Dungeon family and Big Boy, I was able to get a finished piece that the brand loved. The brand went nuts. They were absolutely over the moon with it. But different formats, again, present different solutions and different challenges. The Firestore, that whole long story, if I'm shooting Mini DV, I'm not getting the quality of the image that I'm getting with Firestore. I have no problem moving through the club if I'm shooting on Mini DV. But with the Firestore, I go right to the computer. I was able to plug it right in. We're able to export and start editing right away. That was a godsend in that situation in a couple different ways. Then we moved to the SD cards, which blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting like the same storage within a couple of years span from this Firestore now on an SD card. Yeah. And now with solid state drives and everything else, it's just,
Are you talking about the very small one, or it's like there's a little bigger?
This is the bigger one. SD card.
Yeah.
We had not gotten the micro SD.
Yeah.
So it's to watch the technology. Race across the from Beta SP all the way to where it is today. To where you're shooting on all that storage space and this. Right. Had you told me back at CBS Radio, hey Nick, you can shoot everything on this right here, I would have probably started doing cartwheels and backflips and You could have shot me out of a circus cannon. I would have been just thrilled. But it's but to say all that, it doesn't mean that we can get away from the stuff that makes good cinematography. The fact that we have these great storage options. We still need to know how to set a horizon. We still need to know how to do over-the-shoulder shots. We need to know how to do a two-shot, a dirty two. The deep focus. The long shots. All of this stuff. When the old directors, the old cinematographers, the George Stevens of the world, the Orson Welles, John Ford, the old masters, Greg Toland, one of the greatest all-time cinematographers ever. They shot on film. You only had so much film stock, which means you had to hyper plan everything out. And when you have that, it allows you to sit there and go, well, okay, I'm going to take a lot of time making sure my script is right for this. I'm going to make sure my scripting is good. I'm going to make sure that it matches with the environment that I'm presented with, especially if I'm outdoors. I'm going to make sure the shot is right. I'm not going to just burn film because I have clouds coming in. It's not exactly what I want. And if you do that, it would allow time for what Ford called the happy mistakes, right? Where hey, just leave the camera running. And your hero, your protagonist is staring off into the sunset. And oh my God, that's the Oscar-winning shot, right? And with this digital space, we aren't concerned about that as much. So we shoot and we shoot and we shoot. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we may be capturing pretty images, but we're not necessarily engaging in good cinematography. So I would, I tried to make a focus in my life getting back into the space to really go back and look at some of the great directors and the great cinematographers and how they set up their shots. And you can find it on YouTube. There's a one with Steven Spielberg where he's talking about meeting John Ford as a kid. And Ford, it was a pretty gruff individual and met Spielberg, and Spielberg engineered his way onto the Paramount lot, ends up in front of Ford, and Ford says, "So they tell me you want to be a picture maker." And Spielberg's like, "Yes, I shoot
picture maker."
Yeah, I want to be a picture maker, right? And so he says, "Yes, sir, I want to, I shoot on Super 8." And he goes, "Okay, good, all right." And in Ford's office, he had these large paintings of Monument Valley, which is where it's home of the Navajo, and Ford made it famous to a larger audience. But he goes, "All right, go to the first picture." And so Steven Spielberg goes to the first one, and he says, "Tell me what you see." And he's like, "Well, I see, a horse." And the guy's like, "No. Where's the horizon?" He's like, "Okay, well, the horizon's up here and everything is down here." He goes, "Okay, good. Go to the next one." So he goes to the next picture, and he says, "Okay, tell me what you see." He goes, "Well, like an idiot, there's cavalry." And he's like, "No. Where's the horizon?" He goes, "Well, the horizon's down here." He goes, "Good. Get in front of me." So Spielberg goes and stands in front of me. He goes, when you know why the horizon's up here and down here and what it's there for, you might end up being a half decent picture maker. Now get the F out of here." Get Spielberg out.
That's really funny.
And so, but if you look at George Lucas and Star Wars, if you look at Spielberg, if you look at all of these guys, who were sort of the new age directors, they all, even Kurosawa, they all stole from the basic building blocks of what John Ford and George Stevens put out there. And when you look at the fact that all of those guys, unbelievable amount of Oscar awards issued to both men, they were also in World War II. And they were, without George Stevens, you're not getting imagery of, the liberation of the concentration camp at Dachau, which they ended up using for the Nuremberg trials. That's an Oscar-winning director that got that footage. The Battle of Midway, we see the planes and the bombs going off. That's John Ford hand-holding a camera. The man who essentially built John Wayne's career was at Midway, getting shrapnel from getting his shot. William Wyler, another legendary Oscar-winning director, was up in bombers. So when you see World War II footage of the bombers with their wings getting blown off and crashing, that's William Wyler, Oscar-winning director, inside that plane, rather. Excuse me, and they used those same principles that they had learned on set from the silent movie era into their Oscar-winning features and into their documentary footage for World War II. And I'm not saying be nostalgic. If you're a TikToker, I love you guys. I think what you guys do it's amazing, and I think it's needed. We cannot become prisoners of nostalgia. When I talk about looking back at the silent film era, at the golden age, the golden studio age, and what we're looking at now, nostalgia is the last refuge of people with no hope in the future. And so take those principles and apply it to new age technology, new age things, basics, how to set a horizon, when we're shooting, how we're shooting. And you're going to find that it's going to lead you to a great deal of success. And it will be helpful in ways that all the stuff that I did may not have been. I can tell you really what not to do on a shoot, but really following the old masters and the old ways. And especially when it comes to scripting, my God, Amanda Morosco has one that she shows up in your room and she is the script queen. When you talk about shooting anything, preparation, even if it's a live event, jot down a rough script of what you're looking for.
Is that a shot list or script?
It's everything. A shot list is critical. It's going to change. It's not the Bible. It's not the Constitution. It's not carved in granite. It's not the tablets brought down from the mountaintop. A shot list concerns me in one way, that people lock into it. And no, I have to have this shot. The live situation's not presenting an opportunity to get that shot. A script allows me to say, okay, I have what I want. The voiceover, if there's voiceover in the ends, what I want to say, generally, I can change it, I can work it, I can change it, alter things. But now I can sit there and go, okay, if I change the pace here and linger on this shot, I can make it work here. And I can make that shot, okay, for this part, let's get the bar with the neon lights and all. Yeah, okay, all right. So I can have a shot list just like a kid writes a Christmas list. That doesn't mean you're going to get everything on it. But if I have a script in my hand, it allows me to be a little bit more improvisational from a shooting standpoint and sit there and go, okay, the light works really well here. The way the crowd's moving here. I can shoot this. I can know now to change the frame rate because I'm trying to get slow motion here. For this part of the script, I think slow motion would work really well. So I think a shot list is great. Bring it along. A script to me is critical. It enables you to really make good cinematic decisions from your frame rate, if you're shooting slow motion, from a framing standpoint, whether I want to get really tight on action, whether I want to keep it wide. There's a lot of things that can come into play.
When you talk about script, do you write the way like a script format it is? Like, they have exterior, boom, 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 boom. Somebody says this. Not like a movie script, right? When you say script, it's more like a, I don't know, guide or...
It is. It's not like the Godfather script by any stretch of the imagination. It's more of, it really is. I think Ching, you've probably given me a better term for it, which is, it is more of a guide. It's the script
outline.
An outline, yeah. I think it's a bit more fleshed out than a typical outline, I would
Treatment.
say. Yeah. See, we're throwing all the terms out. We're going to go down. And somebody from some film school somewhere is going to, instructor's going to watch this, and they're going to be like, who is this Nimrod that Ching is talking to? But really, I think that it's and I'm sorry, I know people don't like the military terms all the time, but for me, it's, I have to go to war with the weapon. I have a functional camera, but I need a battle plan, and and my script is my battle plan. And the script, and especially if you're working with an agency or you're working with people who are paying you, they are going to want to see a script, a treatment, a rough outline, maybe some storyboards before they sign off on anything. So if you have a script that they have approved, an approved script, you desperately need to have that on you when you're shooting. That saved my rear end. God, I'm trying to. I think we were shooting for a Diageo brand, and it was one of their premium liquors. And because I had a signed approved script, I used that to get a couple of celebrities to appear on the shot that weren't supposed to be there, because I was able to say, look, they're talking about you and your music. And they're looking at the script, hold up. Okay, cool. And they did the shoot. And so, having that stuff in front of you it'll save your butt more than you know. It's being prepared in every different way.
So now I want to know a little bit about what you're doing now. I understand you are producing travel series. What does that mean? Like after you, where's the outlet? Are you gonna have your own channel, or are you gonna, pitch to network, or what is your plan?
It is a travel series that it's going to end up on YouTube, and I'm putting it on YouTube because as we discussed before, I don't want a network telling me I have to put X number of shows out in a certain period of time. The way that this show is going, in my mind, is going to work, and I've already shot the first episode, so it better stay that way. It's going into different parts of the world, and sometimes not the flashiest, not the most glamorous places. And looking at the culture, looking at food, and it's going through the lens of soccer and sports, which is what I'm familiar with. And if you look at soccer in general, you have right-wing teams, left-wing teams. You have teams that are big money. You have teams that are from absolute, like massively underserved areas. And I think that, when you look at a sporting culture, it a lot of times ends up taking the shape of its city. And for the first series that I shot, we went to Sicily, and Sicily, for those, I don't know, and everybody went to geography class, the boot of Italy, there's the rock that looks like that's being kicked by the boot. That's Sicily. And that's where my family, the Aliffis, come from. And the economy in Sicily, compared to the north, if you travel to Italy and you go Rome, Florence, Venice, you're like, oh my God, everything's beautiful. These tile roofs, this old brick. Oh, the streets are just immaculate. Oh my God, Italy's beautiful. Well, if you go to Sicily, Sicily's beautiful, but it looks, in some ways, it's very reminiscent of some places in the Middle East. There's not near the economic investment from the government. From a sporting perspective, sports can sort of, especially in Europe, act as the canary in the coal mine for economic challenges. Sicily has teams that start up and go bankrupt, start up and go bankrupt. They have fans that show up. The facilities were built in some cases the 30s or 40s under the fascist government of Mussolini. And we go and we cover the food and culture of Sicily. And this team at the time was called Calcio Catania. And it was one of their last 3 home games before the team went bankrupt and shut down. And covering that was very bittersweet. It's a team that I had grown up with. It's a team that at one point was in the upper echelons of Serie A. And they ended up being shut down because they had 60 million euro in debt. That any team in the north, that's more than likely not happening. They're going to get some level of assistance. They're going to have potential buyers who come in to take over. In the South, that doesn't happen. And so why is that the case? Why is the city that is 2,700 years old, that was, one of the great gems of ancient Greece, that has been fought over, untold quantities of blood spilled because this place was so strategically vital and beautiful, and now it's sort of being treated as an economic afterthought. That to me is very interesting. But it's, as we go, places like the places that interest me are like places like Memphis, Tennessee, where they had a unbelievable scandal outside of the death, obviously, of Martin Luther King. They had one of the greatest human trafficking scandals in American history in Memphis. So going to Memphis and covering more than just barbecue, going to places like, Oakland and going to places like, Des Moines, Iowa, Poland. It's not just going to the pretty spots so you can get free vacation. It's also going to the spots where there are people with heart and people who are engaged. They are just not at the forefront of your local travel guide, and they're not the local, they're not the first thing whenever you get a flight deal that comes into your inbox. Oh, well, I think I need to go to Krakow today.
They're not on TripAdvisor.
No, they're not on TripAdvisor. But it's places that, because overnight for us in our generation, the world went from being very big, where you had to either talk to people on very expensive landline conversations, or you sent handwritten letters, typed letters, to sending email. We brought a world from, my hands are all the way outstretched from here to here in, like 2 decades time.
Wait. Do you miss receiving a human being's letter to you now?
Yes, I do.
Your mailbox is full of junk mail.
I do. It's like, how many pieces of junk mail can I possibly get? Like, it's like sale. And I'm like, okay, great. I understand the post office needs to, keep running. But I miss a handwritten, or it can be even typed, a letter. And I think that it goes into who we are today. There's not a nostalgia for it. I miss it, but it's at the same time I recognize that if I am more likely to talk to someone via email or text than receive that handwritten letter, I'll take the trade-off. I'll take the trade-off because I can talk to my relatives in Italy now via WhatsApp and not wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks for a letter. To me,
Right.
it's a trade-off. I've got to take the trade-off. So.
Right. That's so. We're approaching our hour time, and before we do,
Wow, quickly.
very quick. And I have a question for you. Is that can you just talk a little bit more about smartphone changing the filmmaking and video making, and that's how you and we met in Clubhouse, and we talk about smartphone every Friday at 12 noon Eastern time. And so could you just give us like a quick spiel about how great smartphone is?
I hope I haven't been boring people on the
No, wonderful.
The channel, but it's a game changer. As someone who, when we were starting CBS, the CBS digital property, we were pricing. We had to. We had to start from absolute scratch, meaning that we had to price cameras, we had to price computers, and we fought back and forth over cameras so much that it was absolutely absurd. And to think that now that's not an issue. That I can, if I'm part of any digital property, I can say, look, we're going to go out, we're going to shoot this, we're going to shoot that. Who here has a phone? Everyone's going to raise their hand. Who here has a camera on their phone? 97% of people are going to raise their hand. And so we say, okay, using basic shooting techniques, we are going to do a 3-camera shoot and a 4-camera shoot on this. And to think that, when I was in college, we had what we called the cage, and that's where you went to go get your equipment rental. And if you went there and you were 5 minutes late, all the cameras are gone, which means you're not able to shoot your project. It means you're probably going to get a failing grade, which means now you're going to have to spend more money retaking the class because you were 5 minutes late. That's not an issue anymore. And I think that mobile filmmaking is going to meet a lot of barriers that are imposed from two sides. We're going to be beset on two sides by restrictions. One side is going to be, on the traditional filmmaker, the people who have invested $10,000 into a camera body, $35,000, $40,000 in lenses. They're going to say, you can't do this. I don't blame them. If I sank that kind of money into equipment, I would be saying the exact same thing. And the other side, which is far more challenging to overcome, is our own fear and our own doubt and our ability to create something meaningful from a device that we carry around all the time. And if you are looking at this device and you're saying, I can't shoot a documentary, I can't shoot a film, I can't shoot a show, anything, I challenge you right now to go to a kitchen and pull out a basic knife, a cutting instrument, and think of all the things you can do with that knife. The knife can be big, the knife can be small. I can fillet a fish with a small knife. I can cut steak with a small knife. I can prepare a number of things with a small knife, smash garlic with a small knife. The tool does not limit the ability of the artist's, ability to create. It doesn't limit the creativity. Your creativity is limiting the functionality of the device. So, to go out and shoot with something that's in your pocket, and especially if you're a documentarian, this thing is a lifesaver if you're a documentarian. You may be going to shoot somewhere that you may not necessarily need to be shooting, maybe shooting things you're not necessarily supposed to be shooting, and you need to get the footage from point A to point B very quickly. If I have that $10,000 camera body, $35,000 lens, or $35,000 in lens packages carrying around with me, it's difficult for me to move. It's difficult for me to get the media off the device, and I may have to delete it or get rid of it or dump it, and I can't hide in plain sight.
Right.
But really, it's the ground zero shooters.
Accessible.
Right. Who say, I need a C100. No, you don't. It's a 4K camera. Well, I can't use the zoom. Don't use the zoom. Physically move the camera. You pick the camera up and say, okay, I need to go to a close-up. Okay, I'm going to hold the camera. I'm physically going to move my body to the camera, to my subject. I'm physically going to move my camera to the subject. Find out where this thing's weak.
It has 3 cameras.
Yeah, it has 3 cameras, but figure out the weaknesses of your device and shoot around them. Low light situation, figure out, there are tricks to shooting in low light situations.
Actually, iPhone is being better and better. iPhone,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not endorsing Apple, but
Right.
I just happen to use iPhone since
Right.
iPhone 4.
Yeah, same
And
here.
you guys go watch my film, My Young Gun Diary.
Yes, please.
I shot the whole thing on iPhone 11.
Yeah.
And if I were to shoot it on iPhone 13 or 14, I think it would be a little bit better. But 11 is already very good. 11.
Yeah.
Pro.
But Ching, let me ask you, how many places could you have gone with like a big over-the-shoulder camera? How many places do you think you would have been able to get into to shoot? You think you would have been able to get into all the places that you went?
No. First of all, I'm not able to carry heavy things.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I think it will really scare people if
Right.
I carry a big camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably interviewed between 50 to 70 people.
Mm-hmm.
And no one want to talk to me if maybe some people.
Right.
I love it. I love it because it's not because I have enough storage on my iPhone and 256 gigabyte. It was actually enough for me to not worry about not run out of space.
Mm-hmm.
and utilize iCloud also.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to worry about if my phone goes into a toilet or a river.
Right. I could shoot in the rain. I could shoot anywhere. And that's the thing. If you are a $0 filmmaker, there's nothing wrong with being a $0 filmmaker.
Yeah.
All the greats start out. All the greats, Spielberg, Lucas, all of them started off shooting Super 8. We don't have Super 8. We don't have Super 8 readily available. We don't have Super 8 cameras readily available. We all have this. Just go do some basic legwork on just general shooting practices, or how about this? This is really crazy and wild. Just shoot stuff and figure out what you like, what your vision is, and make it happen. It's accessible to everyone. That's frightening for some people that there's an accessible option for people, but at the same time, there will be talent. There will be talented people who skyrocket to success because of this device and because they weren't hampered economically with having to purchase all this extra stuff.
Right.
And so treat it like a business, minimal investment, maximum ability to leverage the solution. It's the business person's dream. So
right.
I think it's beautiful. I love it. And if you're creating right now, this is from someone with significant anxiety, just shoot it, do the very best you can. There will be other projects. And the one thing that I've learned I can live with a lot. I can live with being tired. I can live with being hungry. I can live with, being happy, sad, all of it. I cannot live with regret. And the worst thing in my mind would be going to my grave with a head full of ideas that I never executed on. And I don't want to model that for my children. And I don't want to model it for my friends either. So I would rather go to my grave and people be like, yeah, he was a pretty crappy director, but my God, the guy shot everything he wanted to shoot. Right? He went, there's nothing left for him. He died because there was nothing left here for him to do.
You're so young. You shouldn't talk like that.
But time is a thief. Time is a thief. And time can be your ally and time can be a thief. And,
what, by the way, you were starting to editing a long time ago. What software did you use?
I started off on Final Cut. It was Final Cut Pro, and then for a very
Final Cut Express first.
So you were on Final Cut Express?
I started Final Cut Express.
Those days, like $2,000.
Yeah, the $2,000 is crazy.
Right. Yeah, the barrier was so high.
Yeah,
the barrier was so high, and now it's not. It's even
it's
Final
still
Cut.
$300.
It's $300. That's a pretty high. Look, people say, well, $300 isn't that much, dude. Try being broke and tell me that $300. But you have LumaFusion that you can edit on your phone. You have DaVinci Resolve that's free.
Yeah.
There are so many options for you, and so really. Do some homework, find the cheap options, the free options, and understand.
Oh, you know what, Nick? The Premiere, they raised their price on us because we got it 3 years ago. Because I have an educational ID because I taught in college, so they gave us like 200 something a year, 265 a year. Now they raised to 392, and then they say. They're still giving us a discount for 40%.
Of course.
If it's a real,
right.
If it's no discount, it's $600 a year.
Right. If you buy a Lamborghini for $300,000 and the salesman knocks off $1,000, you still got a discount. Doesn't mean it's affordable, but you got a discount. So
anyway. So what do you think of these Premiere? Like, do you support or do you buy these Premiere where they charge you monthly? Like, how do you feel? I know you're not crazy about what's the Filmic Pro if they go monthly.
Oh my God, no. Look, Filmic Pro was Filmic Pro for those who are coming into this. Filmic Pro is an app that allows you to have more control over the onboard camera for your phone. They've since gone from a single purchase to a subscription model. The issue that I have generally with this is I feel like I'm renting software. I like to own the things that I own, that my hard-earned money purchased. I like owning Final Cut. So I shoot on. Everyone else seems to be doing Premiere because I imagine because you get the full suite, I guess. But I shoot on Final Cut because I like it's what I grew up with. And I like the fact that it's not going anywhere. If I stop payment for a month, it's not, I can't, and I have a project, I have to somehow fish up cash to reactivate the software. No. For Filmic, I have the single purchase version. I'm going to go until the wheels fall off on that thing. I don't care. But subscription, I get it. Developers cost money. Beta testing, all this stuff. Going to the drawing board. Every time somebody goes to the drawing board, it costs money. I get it. But I have so much money in my bank account. I cannot magically engineer new fantastic boatloads of money, Scrooge McDuck style, into my bank account. I have to work my butt off for it. So I don't like just doling out cash. I'm not Daddy Warbucks. I am not I'm not a charity organization just handing cash to corporations. I try to be very smart with my purchasing decisions. Subscriptions ain't it. And so I try to be very careful with that. That's why, as much that you could talk to me about the value of Adobe, where you get Photoshop and After Effects and everything else. It's great value. And if I have a one-off project that requires those things, I may do a 1-month buy of it. But outside of that, I'm going to stick with what I can afford and works within my budget to make sure that I keep my margins. So that way,
your margin.
Yeah, for my freelance business. So that way I can make sure that if I need to get something, I have, or if I need to get a plane ticket to get somewhere, I'm not burning that money that I can reinvest into content, instead getting it to basic operational costs. I'm trying to keep my operational costs low so I can dump my money into content, which is where the punch comes in. Understand.
Yeah. So let's do the rapid fire. Hopefully it's rapid enough.
Let me prepare.
Okay, rapid fire.
All right, here we go.
Okay, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite TV series right now?
Favorite TV series right now? Oh God, you're gonna kill me on this one. I would say it's Joe Pera Talks with You.
Oh,
it's on HBO Max. It was on Cartoon. It was on Adult Swim. It's a really weird show. It's like very wholesome, but a very weird show. Joe Pera Talks with You. It is fantastic. I love it.
Oh, okay. Joe Pera Talks with You. That's a very long title.
It is a very long title.
Yeah. Okay.
Weird,
so
hilarious.
weird. So, what social media do you use the most?
Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. What is the best part of being a father?
It's a new world through new eyes. It is when my son asked about, what do I want to be when I grow up? It was a triggering question. It was a motivational question, and it changed the trajectory, I would say, of my life. My daughter has this infectious positivity. As much as I may be complaining about something, she is rainbows and butterflies and unicorns and, she, both of my kids bring something completely different, and it's new world, new eyes. It's amazing. And I'm someone who never wanted kids, and I'm just thrilled that I'm thrilled that they're there. It's not for everybody. But it's it's this great no filter view of the world that's spectacular.
Wonderful. Well, what will you purchase when you win a $1,000?
If I won $1,000, what would I buy? I would buy plane tickets to the destinations that I spoke of earlier in the show. So I would buy plane tickets to Warsaw, Poland. I would buy tickets to Rome. I would buy tickets probably to, I would say, I really want to go to Argentina to do a show from Argentina. And I really want to get to Southeast Asia. I want to try to get to like Vietnam. I think I would love to go to Vietnam. That's why, because and for people, because wait, you only talk about $1,000, Nick. You can look. There's some cheap flight deals out there, and I will fly. Look. You can staple gun me to the bottom of the plane. I don't need first class service. Who's that guy? Well, we're duct taping him to the bottom of the plane. He paid for the super economy option. I'm good with that.
That's funny. So, okay, great answers. Now, what if you had a chance to have lunch with someone? Who would you pick, live or dead?
Alive or dead? I would have to say. My oh, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna try to get through it. I would say it had to be my grandfather, my mom's dad. He was my protector. I was a hyperactive ADHD kid who he took under his wing, and he taught me how to drive, and he taught me how to, to sort of be calm, to be like a duck, calm on the surface, paddling like hell underneath. He was funny. He was a normal blue collar guy. And I would love to have lunch with him just one more time to get, any bit of advice I could get out of him, and let him see me be a dad, and let him see how his influence really helped me try to be the best person I can be, and the best dad I can be. I think that would be my lunch. And if I go any further, it's going to turn into me with fat tears and snot bubbles and whatnot. So I'm going to have to leave it at that. But that's where that would be my lunch. It would mean the world.
So if you go to a restaurant, say tonight, when you with a person come from out town, what type of a restaurant would you choose?
We have, believe it or not, Atlanta has a fantastic food scene. We have a strip of road called Buford Highway that was featured in Anthony Bourdain's The Layover. It's a show he hated, but that he hated making. But we have everything you want from Central African all the way to Honduran, anything. We have a hole in the wall joint nearby that's it's a taco stand that looks like it should be condemned, but the food is amazing. That's where I would take anybody who came into town. I would take them to Taco Veloz. And if not Taco Veloz, I would take them to Faux d'Aloy too. So that would be, both of those spots are really good.
That sounds really good. So what are the three best quality of you yourself?
The three best. I'm terrible at this question. I'm terrible at self-promotion, Ching. We've talked about this.
I am beautiful.
In your case, it's true. In mine, people have already shut. Like they're like covering the screen. Like, who's that guy? Look, I would say one of the I can find the humor in just about any situation. That would be one. Two, it's pretty hard to scare me. It's you can bring a lot of your personal challenges to my doorstep. It's pretty damn hard to scare me off. And I would say the final one is I accept that I am a flawed person who is just doing their best on this rock. And I think that we all try to project, we've been taught, because a lot of us have been raised by middle management sales, never take no for an answer. Never get, there's no, you should always just be the best. Well, sometimes that's great and something to strive for. But if you're at ground zero of something, you may not even know what the best looks like. So accept the fact that you're flawed. Accept the fact that there are shortcomings. If you work with those things, it will allow you a lot more freedom to deliver on things that make you happy. that make you laugh, that make you satisfied. And there's nothing on earth. Johnny Cash wrote a song about it. There's nothing on earth more valuable than a satisfied mind. In the end of the day, if you do execute well on a project, if you execute poorly, there's one face in the mirror at night that you're going to look at. It's yours. So be satisfied with the decisions that you make and understand you're a flawed human being, that you're just doing the best you can on this rock, and you will find yourself, I hope, in a much better spot if you have that mentality. It's not one I had for a long time. It's one that I've recently tried to cultivate and develop.
Beautiful, beautiful said. And tech for your needs is Lewis. Lewis says,
Oh, what's up, man?
yeah, it says you are a wealth of knowledge in the film movie industry, and your insights are welcome.
Thank
Beautiful.
you so much.
Yeah,
I
and
really appreciate that.
yeah, and also earlier, Colette said, oh, not boring. You were saying boring. Not boring at all, Nick. You are so knowledgeable about film and TV and Sicily.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Thank you.
yeah, I want to thank our audience to be here with us, and yeah. So
Thank
I
you,
think
everybody.
some people are listening. They are now making comments. Some people Facebook, and some people. So yeah, I just have maybe two more questions, and now I know I'm perfect.
You are.
I only have two flaws.
Two.
My spelling is terrible. I can't pronounce people's last name. So what is you? What is one flaw?
I would say the most significant flaw is that I demand my self-imposed demands. I don't put them on anyone else, but my own demands are absurd. My own demands are just because if you don't join the Marines without the expectation you're going to get your teeth kicked in a little bit, right? And wanting to be, good and great. But my demands are a bit astronomical of myself.
You're a perfectionist.
Oh, it's worse. Oh my God, it's worse. Oh no, it's almost like a religious drive to achieve something. And I think because I have ADHD, I almost feel like I have to have that to get any sort of momentum. But there's one movie scene from Enter the Dragon that really just went right in my face. And it's where Jim Williams meets with Mr. Han, the villain. And Mr. Han is a former Shaolin monk who's turned evil. And he says, they're having this back and forth, and Jim Williams talks about winning. And Mr. Han says, we were all ready to win, just as we were born knowing only life. It's defeat that you must prepare for. And that was like it just blasted me through a wall. And that's something a mantra I keep having to repeat to myself. You want to be perfect. You want to be great, because I have such a fear of letting everyone around me down, that I feel like everybody wants to win, just as we're born knowing only life. But we have to prepare for defeat. I have to prepare myself sometimes. Like, look, you're not going to deliver exactly the way you want to deliver, but just deliver the damn thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, as well said. I was just thinking we should submit this whole interview to TED Talk. That's a TED Talk material.
They'd be like, Ching, you're great, Ching. Is this spam? Is this going to the spam folder? Send us one of your other ones. What else you got?
Yeah, great. And last question: coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. Oh my God. I keep the Kimbo Coffee Company. It's a brand out of Naples. I keep that coffee brand. I could be their one customer, and I'm keeping them in business. They are paying their executives exorbitant salaries. The employees are getting bonuses. I have like dual, pouring them up. Oh God, I'm obsessed with coffee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, obsessed, completely obsessed with coffee.
That's funny. Well, so great to talk with you, and
Likewise.
to listen to you, and yeah, very inspiring and very knowledgeable,
Oh,
like
thank you.
our audience
Thank you.
said. Yeah, and I really appreciate you, and we Clubhouse room also appreciate you, and yeah. So when you come to New York, and look me up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And the clubhouse, that the smartphone filmmaking room has been a lifesaver for so many people, myself included. It helped. It helped me. Remember what I talked about, the two walls? Which group is going to tell you no? I was one of those people who shot on cameras and said, I don't know if I could shoot. The room helped me realize absolutely yes you can, and it's your room. You kicked it off. So thank you so much to you, Ching, for having this avenue to run my mouth for a bit, and thank you for setting up the room and everybody in the room, to Darian, to Louise, Colette, to
Mark.
to Mark, and to Eric and Amanda, all the people who come into these rooms and just give the knowledge freely. You don't have to go into student loan debt for it. You don't have to, I'm not sending a bill to the White House to get my student loans from Clubhouse repaid, because it's free knowledge. And it's amazing that you've been able to put that sort of murderer's row of talented people together. So thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you for always supporting us, and sometimes a few times I'm not there, and you were also being a moderator and hosting the room. Oh, by the way, don't forget, when you get a chance, watch my movie, My
Yes.
Yangon Diary. It's free now.
It's free.
It's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi for free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's too much value. That's too much value. As your unofficial business consultant, Ching, I'm going to ask that you paywall this immediately.
By the way, do you understand when someone's moving on Tubi, do a filmmaker make money at all? Do you know?
Very few times is there a content provider who is showing content and there not being some revenue generated. Now, whether or not you're going to get a penny or whether you're going to get $1,000, that remains to be seen. But I would imagine that there is some revenue opportunity for you there. Very, very, unless it's buried in like subsection 3, category 4, of paragraph 12, that you get nothing. I would imagine there's something for you.
Actually, I did went in to see their, company thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just did not really understand the language. It says 60 cents per hour.
No, yeah. So yeah,
what does that mean?
Well, that I imagine that is where, for every, for a certain window of time that someone is spending on your movie, that also means they're spending time on your site. So in the content distribution world, what we don't want is our bounce rate to increase, which means somebody logs onto a page like, oh my God, and like shuts it down, right? We don't want that. We want someone to stay on the page and be like, oh wow, this is great. Everything here, this video is fantastic. And what's happening? They're serving you ads, right? It's like a waterfall of ads. And so as your content is playing, the more commercial breaks you sit through, the more revenue's generated. And certain
But
ads
Nick, I watched my film, my Tubi, twice.
Mm-hmm.
There was no advertisement.
Well, then they're generating revenue from somewhere. They're generating revenue somewhere. Somewhere along the line, someone's getting paid.
I know, it's supposed to have an ad,
Yeah, but
maybe
it could be
for the first week.
There's no paneling at all.
No
surrounding ads.
No, nothing. But when I see
Hmm.
somebody else's film at the beginning, they have an ad.
Okay, so there you go. So maybe in someone else's experience, they're being served an ad in front of your content, and so this is where one last bit of advice from someone who is in the distribution world. There's what's called brand safe content, which means that if I'm British Airways or Coca-Cola, I can put my ad in front of your content safely. All families can view it. People can view it. I'm not going to be hit with abusive language, harsh language, nudity, any of this other stuff. That's brand safe content. The more brand safe your content is, the more ad revenue you can generate, because more premium companies are willing to buy space in front of your content. So just keep that in mind. And if yours, especially being in the political space, there's certainly a desire to put ads in front of that and to generate revenue. So you're interviewing a certain someone soon, right?
I'm interviewing Andrew Yang on
That's a touchdown for you.
November 2nd.
That's a touchdown for you.
Finally. Yeah. It's been 3 years.
Well, you know what? I'll say
3
this,
years.
and I imagine that Mr. Yang's people are going to view all of these interviews and say, okay, okay, this is good. I would say, I imagine they will. If they're thorough, I would say that.
Oh, tell me about Forward Party. How do you feel?
I'll say this. I would, and I'll challenge anyone with this: Republican, Democrat, Forward. There are a lot of people out there who need to know what you can do for them. It's the number one thing in any sort of ad serving. What can your product or service do for me? I don't need loose general ideas. I need concrete things. I want more concrete from Forward. I want more concrete from the right. I want more concrete from the left. Give me something tangible I can get a hold of and help me make my voting decision. With Andrew Yang, I would caution Mr. Yang that in this time that we live in, that there's too much ambiguity all over the place. But in the sales pitch side, I need more concrete in the sales pitch. Because with the right, we know what the right will do. We know what the left will do. We don't necessarily know what the Forward will do. So I need more concrete from the Forward side. That's what I would put forward to Mr. Yang. But if Mr. Yang, if you are watching this, you certainly chose a fantastic outlet when speaking with Ching. She's someone who, obviously has followed your campaign. So you made the very wise decision. Bring some of that concrete that I'm talking about to your interview with Ching. That's my challenge for you, sir.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah. I'm sure Andrew will listen to you.
I hope so. I'm doing what I can. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time, thank you for your family to let me borrow you for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'll see you sometimes on Clubhouse.
All right. See you on Clubhouse, and my best to everyone out there.
So I want to say goodbye to our audience, and thank you so much for being with us, and see you very soon. And have a great Thursday afternoon.